AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé handle our family Christmas this year? So, some background first. I, 32F, am the eldest of three siblings. My sister, Claire, 29F, is getting married next spring, and her fiancé, Greg, 31M, has been in our lives for a couple of years now. Overall, he's fine. I wouldn't say he's bad, but he has this intense need to control things whenever he's involved. And by control, I mean literally everything down to the tiniest detail, which tends to annoy our family more than anything else. Every year, our family rotates who hosts Christmas. Last year it was my turn, and the year before it was Claire's parents' house. This year it was supposed to be mine again, and I have been planning for months. I love Christmas, and I enjoy hosting, but I like doing it in my own style. I make my own decorations, pick my own menu, and basically run it like a personal little production. About a month ago, Claire and Greg came over to talk about coordinating things for Christmas. At first, it seemed normal. They want to know what the schedule would be, what kind of food we were planning, etc. But it quickly escalated. Greg started suggesting changes to the menu, some of which made no sense. He wanted to replace my traditional roast with something trendy and Instagrammable, and swap out the pies my grandmother always made for these weird flavored pastries he found online. He even suggested rearranging my living room furniture to maximize flow for holiday photos, which I found absurd since I have a very specific layout that works for everyone. I politely tried to tell him that these were my traditions, and I would like to host my Christmas the way I always have. He laughed and said, "Come on, you're being controlling. I just want to help make this year special." I told him I appreciated the offer, but I had it covered. Claire, surprisingly, didn't back me up. She said, maybe we could just try a few of Greg's ideas. It could be fun to change things up. I tried to explain that changing everything would ruin the tradition for everyone, especially for my parents, who have been coming to my place for over a decade and look forward to the same setup every year. Fast forward 2 weeks, and things got worse. Greg started messaging me constantly with suggestions, insisting I needed to listen to his experience planning events. He even bought some decorations and sent me pictures, asking me to approve them. At this point, I felt like I was constantly defending my own house and my own Christmas. I finally sent a message saying, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I am hosting this year, and I would like to do it my way. Thank you for understanding. Claire blew up at me. She said I was being unfair, that Greg was just trying to help, and that I was being selfish. My parents backed me up, but she argued that I was isolating Greg and making him feel unwelcome in the family. Things got tense, and for a while, I considered letting him do a small part just so I could avoid conflict. 2 days ago, I finally decided to be firm. I called Claire and Greg and said, I am not asking for opinions, I'm not open to changes, and I will not allow any interference in my planning. You are welcome to come, but this is my house, and I will be hosting it the way I want. Greg rolled his eyes, and Claire got really upset, accusing me of being a dictator and ruining the family vibe. They even threatened to skip Christmas if I didn't lighten up. I told them that would be their choice, but I wasn't going to compromise on a tradition that's extremely important to me and my parents. My parents are fully supporting me, and my brother thinks I'm right, but is trying to stay out of the drama. I offered Claire and Greg the option to host another family gathering in January at their place if they wanted, but apparently that's not enough. I do feel bad because I know they're trying to include themselves in our family, but it honestly feels like Greg wants to run everything. I've never met anyone so obsessed with controlling how everyone celebrates a holiday. And it's not like I don't appreciate him. He's fine as a person, but I'm so protective of my home and my Christmas that I just can't let someone else dictate it. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé handle Christmas and insisting on hosting my way. Additional context, my house is not huge, so we're talking about roughly 15 people in total. I'm not trying to exclude anyone. I just want my traditional setup. I'm not opposed to them contributing food if they want, but no changes to decorations, furniture, or menu. I'm trying to find a balance between keeping my traditions alive and not making them feel unwelcome, but it's getting stressful, and now Claire is texting me multiple times a day about it. I know holidays are supposed to be fun, but I feel like if I let Greg take over, it won't feel like Christmas at all. I just want to know if I'm being unreasonable. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep creating more great content. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thanks so much for your support. AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé control how I celebrate my pregnancy. I, 28F, recently found out that I'm pregnant with my first child. I'm over the moon and have been sharing the news with close family and friends gradually. My younger brother, Alex, 26M, has been dating his fiancée, Melissa, 27F, for about 2 years. I've always gotten along with Melissa reasonably well, though she has a very strong personality and tends to be controlling in subtle ways. A few weeks ago, my family started discussing plans for a baby shower. My mom suggested hosting at her house, and I thought it would be intimate and low stress. I mentioned the idea to Melissa casually, hoping she'd be happy to help with planning if she wanted. That's when things started to go sideways. Melissa immediately said she should be the one planning it because it's her future niece or nephew and she wants everything to be perfect. I was surprised because this is my baby, and traditionally the mother or close family organizes the shower. I politely told her I appreciate her enthusiasm, but I want to make decisions about the event since it's for me. She said that I was being selfish and controlling by wanting to have a say. The conversation escalated quickly. Melissa started insisting that I needed to follow her vision for the shower, a very specific theme, color scheme, and even a strict guest list that mostly excluded my friends from college because she didn't know them. She argued that my friends would ruin the vibe and that the party should reflect her family's taste, not mine. I tried to compromise by suggesting she could help decorate or contribute ideas, but the final decisions would remain mine. She refused and said that if I wasn't going to let her take charge, she wouldn't participate at all. She also made a list of things she thought were inappropriate for a baby shower, including certain types of food, games, and even gifts she deemed tacky. I was shocked because I hadn't realized someone else could dictate those choices. Things got worse when she started messaging my mom and Alex, trying to rally them to support her. She framed it as me not letting her be part of the family and ignoring her role as the future aunt. My mom, who usually sides with me, seemed frustrated and confused because Melissa was very persuasive. She kept asking if I was sure I didn't want Melissa to organize everything. I felt backed into a corner. This is my pregnancy, my celebration, and my home for the baby shower. I tried explaining to Melissa that being controlling and micromanaging every detail is not how I want to celebrate such an important milestone. She got defensive, accused me of being rude, and said I was undermining her role in my life and my family's. At this point, Alex is caught in the middle. He says he wants to support his fiancée, but also doesn't want me to feel excluded or disrespected. He suggested a compromise where Melissa could plan the decorations and I handle the food and invitations. I thought that was reasonable, but Melissa refused anything short of total control. She claimed that unless she gets to plan everything, she doesn't even want to be at the shower. I considered postponing the event or making it smaller to avoid conflict, but I realized that doing so would send a message that Melissa can dictate everything about my life if she wants. I also don't want my own baby shower to become a source of stress and resentment. Now, Melissa is upset and has been sending passive-aggressive texts and comments, implying that I don't value family or the aunt experience. Alex is frustrated because he wants peace, and my mom is upset because she doesn't want family drama during what's supposed to be a joyful time. I've been trying to stay calm and explain that my boundaries are about protecting my celebration and my sanity, not about excluding Melissa. Some friends have said I'm right to set boundaries and that it's my celebration, while others think I'm being rigid and should just let her plan one event. I feel conflicted because I want everyone to enjoy the day, but I also know that letting Melissa take over would ruin it for me. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé control how I celebrate my pregnancy, even though it's causing tension with my family. Character count, 6,673 if you want. I can craft another story with escalating family drama, multiple moral gray areas, and a tense confrontation at a major event, designed to feel like a top viral Reddit post. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's destination wedding after she demanded I contribute thousands despite my financial situation. I, 29F, have a younger sister, Emma, 26F, who got engaged about a year ago. From the start, her fiancé, Ryan, 28M, made it clear that they wanted a lavish destination wedding, somewhere tropical, with a full week of events, excursions, and a very expensive resort. I was happy for them and excited to celebrate, but I immediately had concerns because I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I have student loans, rent, and other bills, and I knew there was no way I could afford a high-cost destination wedding. When Emma announced that the wedding would be in Hawaii, she sent a group chat to all family members and included a budget breakdown. She expected guests to cover their flights, accommodations at the resort, and activities over the week. She even included suggested gifts on the registry that were hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. I was shocked, so I tried to have a private conversation with her. I explained that I simply could not afford the suggested costs and that I could only attend if there was some flexibility or if she understood that my contribution would be limited. Emma's response was immediate and angry. She said that I should be willing to make sacrifices for family and that if I really cared about her happiness, I would figure out a way to pay. She also mentioned that family should support each other and implied that my hesitation was selfish. I tried to explain that I am financially responsible, but that my limits didn't mean I don't care about her or her wedding. She dismissed my concerns and said that attending without paying for the extra events or resort stay would be inappropriate. Over the next few weeks, Emma kept sending reminders about booking flights, hotels, and the resort packages. Each message was more passive-aggressive than the last, often ending with, "I really hope you'll be part of this. It wouldn't be the same without you." It felt manipulative because she knew I couldn't realistically afford what she wanted. I considered attending for just the ceremony and reception, staying at a cheaper hotel, but when I suggested that, she said it would look bad if I didn't stay at the resort and participate in all the events. Things came to a head at a family dinner. Emma brought up the wedding budget in front of my parents and cousins and said, "I really don't understand why my name can't just prioritize family and celebrate with me properly. It's disappointing." Everyone looked at me, and I felt humiliated. I explained calmly that I could not pay thousands of dollars for a wedding trip and that my support was not measured by money. Emma said I was being selfish and putting finances over family happiness. My parents seemed uncomfortable, and some of my cousins whispered that I should just pay, or it's only 1 week. After that, I made the decision not to pay for the high-cost parts of the wedding. I told Emma I would attend the ceremony and reception, but I could not afford flights, the resort, or pre-wedding events. She reacted explosively. She accused me of being cheap, selfish, and even disloyal. She said that if I wasn't fully supporting her financially, she didn't want me attending. I tried to stay calm, reiterating that my decision wasn't about her personally, but about my financial reality. The situation has since escalated. Emma has been posting on social media about how sad it is when family doesn't support your happiness, and some people put money over relationships. It's obvious who she is talking about, and mutual friends and distant family have started asking me if I plan to attend and why I'm hesitant. I've received messages from other family members urging me to just pay for everything to keep the peace, but I feel like it's unfair to be pressured into financial strain to avoid conflict. I also try to compromise by offering to help in non-monetary ways, planning some decorations, helping coordinate the ceremony, and organizing a smaller pre-wedding event. But Emma dismissed all of it, saying it's not the same as contributing financially. This has made me feel alienated from my own sister, and I'm upset that she sees my support as conditional when I'm willing to participate in meaningful ways. Now, my parents have tried to mediate, suggesting I split the cost somehow, but I've made it clear that even splitting would still put me in serious debt. Some cousins think I am right to stand my ground, while others think I am selfish and ruining Emma's dream wedding. I feel stuck, stressed, and sad because this has created a huge rift in my family, and I'm worried it will permanently damage my relationship with my sister. I love Emma and want to celebrate her marriage, but I also can't compromise my financial stability. I feel like she's equating money with love and support, which isn't fair. I have been clear, respectful, and honest about my limits, but she refuses to acknowledge them and continues to pressure me. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's destination wedding and setting financial boundaries, even though it has caused tension and hurt feelings. Character count, 6,594. I can also craft an even more dramatic version, where the story escalates with extended family taking sides, social media passive aggression, and last-minute wedding drama, which often drives top engagement on Reddit. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé attend our family reunion after he insulted my husband in front of everyone. So this happened last month and has been a huge point of tension in my family. I, 34F, have a pretty close-knit family, though we all have our quirks. My sister, Lily, 30F, has been dating her now fiancé, Brad, 32M, for about 2 years. Brad and I have always had a tense relationship, mostly because he's kind of brash and tends to make comments that rub me the wrong way. My husband, Mark, 36M, is the opposite, very patient, gentle, and dislikes conflict. For some context, Mark and I have hosted the majority of our family gatherings at our place over the last 10 years, and we take them seriously, planning everything from food to activities. I'm very organized and like things to go smoothly. A few weeks ago, I sent out invitations for our annual family reunion, which takes place over a weekend at a rented cabin in the mountains. Everyone RSVP'd, including Lily and Brad, which I expected. A few days before the reunion, I was discussing the cabin setup with my sister and casually mentioned that Brad should bring snacks or drinks if he wanted to contribute. She laughed and said, "Brad hates doing anything unless it's absolutely necessary. You know that." I shrugged it off. The reunion itself started off fine. Everyone arrived, and the first night we had dinner together. That's when things started to go south. Brad immediately started making comments about how the cabin looked cheap and how he didn't understand why we settle for such places instead of going somewhere luxurious. I didn't say anything at first because I was trying to avoid conflict. Later, as the night went on, we were sitting around the fire, and my husband was telling a story about his recent work project. Brad interrupted him mid-sentence, saying, "Wow, Mark really just does the bare minimum, doesn't he? I can't believe someone would brag about that." Everyone went quiet. Mark looked taken aback, but tried to brush it off, making a small joke about Brad being generous with compliments. I could see he was hurt, though, and honestly, I was furious. I pulled Brad aside later that night and told him that his comments were inappropriate and rude. He smirked and said, "I'm just being honest. If he can't handle it, that's not my problem." I explained that this wasn't about being honest. It was about basic respect, especially since we were at a family event. He shrugged it off. The next day, during a family hike, Brad continued making snide remarks about Mark's physique and joked about how he would never survive a day in the office like Mark does. I finally snapped and told him that if he continued, he would not be welcome at any future family gatherings. My sister got defensive and said I was overreacting, that he was just joking, and that I was too sensitive. After we got home, I told my sister that I would not allow Brad to attend the next family reunion unless he sincerely apologized to Mark and agreed to show basic respect. She blew up at me, saying that it wasn't fair to control who she brings to family events, and that I was being petty. She's been avoiding me ever since, and several relatives have started messaging me, saying that I overreacted and that I should just let Brad be there to avoid tension. I understand that some people think I should let it slide or keep the peace, but I feel like Brad crossed a major line. It wasn't just teasing, it was insulting my husband repeatedly in front of everyone. Mark is extremely passive, so I felt like I needed to stand up for him. I also feel like letting Brad attend without consequences would send a message that it's okay to disrespect family members. Now my family is split. Some support me, saying that respect is non-negotiable, and others are upset that I ruined the reunion mood by making it about Brad. Lily hasn't spoken to me directly since then, though she has posted passive-aggressive messages on social media about family drama. I've held my ground, and I told her that unless Brad apologizes, he won't be welcome at future events. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé attend our next family reunion after he insulted my husband. I feel like I'm protecting my family and standing up for my husband, but I also feel guilty that I may have driven a wedge between my sister and me. I should also note that Mark supports my decision completely. He was hurt, but agreed that Brad's behavior was unacceptable. I don't want to escalate things unnecessarily, but I also don't want to enable someone who treats my spouse disrespectfully. So Reddit, am I being the asshole for drawing a line here, or am I justified in protecting my husband and our family's gatherings? AITA for refusing to pay for my stepsister's wedding after she demanded I cover half the costs? I, 35F, have a complicated family situation. My father remarried about 10 years ago, and my stepmother brought a daughter, Claire, 32F, from her previous marriage. I've always tried to maintain a polite relationship with Claire, but we've never been particularly close. She tends to be very entitled and demanding, and I usually keep interactions limited to family gatherings. Recently, Claire got engaged to her fiancé, Ryan, 33M, and she immediately started talking about wedding plans. Initially, I assumed she would follow traditional etiquette, parents contributing as they are able, the couple paying the rest. But within days, she sent me a message saying she wanted me to cover half of the wedding costs because you are practically family, and it's only fair since you'll be benefiting from being part of this family too. I was shocked. I live in a modest apartment, work a full-time job, and have my own financial responsibilities, including paying off student loans and saving for a house. Claire's wedding plans, from what she's described, involve an extravagant venue, custom decor, a live band, and a designer dress. The total cost she quoted was over $60,000, and she expected me to contribute $30,000. I told her directly that I could not do that, and she responded with surprise and anger, saying, "It's not fair that I have to pay so much when you're benefiting from the family network." I tried reasoning with her. I said that I was happy to support her in non-financial ways, helping with planning, attending appointments, or assisting with the guest list, but I simply cannot pay that amount. She insisted that I was being selfish and that family should always come first. She also brought my stepmother into it, who suggested that I do my part because Claire has no siblings on her mother's side to help financially. I reminded my stepmother that I am not legally or morally obligated to pay for her wedding. The situation worsened when Claire started sending passive-aggressive texts and posting on social media about family who won't help make dreams come true. She even implied that if I didn't contribute financially, I wasn't truly part of the family and that it would be awkward at family events going forward. I considered a compromise, like contributing a smaller, symbolic amount, but even suggesting $500 or $1,000 was met with outrage. She said it was insulting and that I was cheap and unwilling to support the family. At this point, I told her firmly that I would not be contributing financially to her wedding under any circumstances. I offered to help in other ways, such as assisting with decor ideas or RSVPs, but she rejected everything I suggested. My father and stepmother are frustrated, though my father seems to understand my position. My stepmother keeps implying that I should make sacrifices for the family and suggests I'm being overly rigid. Several extended family members have weighed in, with some agreeing that I should help since it's Claire's big day, and others supporting me, saying that there is no obligation to fund an adult child's wedding. The tension has now spilled into all family gatherings. Claire makes passive-aggressive comments whenever I'm around and has even suggested she might exclude me from some pre-wedding events if I don't contribute. She told my father that I'm breaking the family apart over money, which he told me about later. I've been trying to maintain civility, but it's stressful and upsetting. I want to support Claire emotionally and be involved in the wedding in meaningful ways, but I refuse to give her tens of thousands of dollars that I don't have and that I should not be obligated to give. I feel that this is about her wanting control and entitlement, rather than any genuine need. Some friends think I'm completely justified, as it's not my responsibility to fund her wedding. Others say I'm being too cold, and that family should help out, even if it's a stretch. I feel caught between my financial reality, the ethical question of helping family, and the drama that has now engulfed the entire family dynamic. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay for my stepsister's wedding after she demanded I cover half the costs, even though it has caused tension with my father, stepmother, and extended family. Character count 6,643. I can also write another story that ramps up the emotional tension even further, involving sibling rivalry, engagement conflicts, and moral gray areas that often go viral on Reddit. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she made an unusual demand regarding my gift. So, this is going to be a long one, but I feel like I need to give full context. I, 28F, have a sister, Emily, 32F, and we've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the perfect child in our parents' eyes. Straight A student, star athlete, super social, and I was always the quieter, more introverted one. Not to the point of deep resentment, but there's always been this undercurrent of competition that sometimes boiled over. Emily has been engaged to her fiancé, Tom, for about a year now. When they got engaged, she immediately started talking about her dream wedding and how it was going to be this glamorous, over-the-top event. Honestly, I was happy for her, but my budget and lifestyle are nothing like hers. I have a modest apartment, a pretty tight budget, and I work in a nonprofit, so spending thousands on a wedding gift or traveling for a destination wedding isn't exactly feasible for me. Fast forward a few months, Emily called me to talk about the wedding. She told me she was doing a wedding registry and mentioned the usual stuff, kitchen appliances, decor, and some experiences. Then she hit me with something I honestly didn't expect. She said, and I quote, "I know you won't be able to buy me the big ticket items on my registry, so I'm giving you a way to contribute that really matters. I want you to pay for a significant portion of my wedding day, like a third. You're my sister, and it wouldn't feel right if you didn't help cover it." At first, I thought she was joking. I laughed nervously and said, "I think you're joking, right?" But she wasn't. She explained that she wanted me to pay for a large chunk of the catering, the venue, and some of the entertainment. She even sent me a breakdown showing that my share would be around $7,000. For context, my yearly income is around $35,000. I live frugally, but $7,000 is an enormous sum for me, and it would basically wipe out my savings and leave me in debt. I told her honestly that I couldn't afford that, and I thought she'd understand, but she got upset and said things like, "I can't believe you'd put money over family," and "I guess you just don't love me enough to make my day perfect." I tried reasoning with her, suggesting smaller contributions, helping with DIY projects, or even giving a meaningful but less expensive gift, but she was adamant. According to her, if I didn't contribute this way, I wasn't really supporting her or being a true sister. Over the next few weeks, the tension escalated. My parents tried to mediate, and they were sympathetic, but basically said it's Emily's wedding and she has the right to ask, but also I'm not obligated to say yes. I even offered to fly to the wedding, help with setup, and be fully involved emotionally and physically, but nothing less than paying that $7,000 was acceptable to her. Last week, Emily texted me again, asking if I transferred the money yet. I replied that I couldn't and reiterated my willingness to be there for her in other ways. She blocked me on everything. I haven't been invited to any pre-wedding events since, and my parents mentioned she said I'm not welcome if I'm not contributing financially. Now here's where I'm questioning myself. A lot of people are saying I'm the AH for not supporting my sister, and some friends have said I could have borrowed money or sold some possessions to make it work. But honestly, it feels completely unreasonable to expect a sibling to fund a massive portion of a wedding. I feel like she crossed a line asking for that kind of money from a family member, especially knowing my financial situation. I've considered just not attending at all, but I feel guilty. I love my sister and I want her to have a happy day, but I also feel like I'm being financially exploited. I've tried every compromise I can think of, giving a smaller gift, helping with decorations, being involved emotionally, traveling there to support her. None of it is enough. So, Reddit, am I the AH for refusing to fund my sister's wedding and potentially not attending? Or is she being completely unreasonable expecting me to give thousands I don't have? Additional context. My parents are supportive of me not going into debt, but are also subtly hinting I should find a way to make it work. My friends are split. Some think I'm right. Others think I should just give her the money because family comes first. I just feel like there has to be a limit to what someone can demand from a relative, and I'm struggling with feeling both guilty and resentful. I'm fully prepared for backlash from family if I don't attend, but I also don't think I can morally or financially justify paying that amount. So AITA here, character count, 6,453. AITA for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend stay with us, even though it caused a huge family fight. So this happened over the past few weeks, and I'm still trying to figure out if I overreacted or not. I, 29F, live in a 3-bedroom apartment with my partner, Mark, 32M, in a mid-sized city. We've been living together for about 5 years, and we have a pretty established routine. We like our space, we like our schedules, and we have a lot of rules around guests because we've had bad experiences in the past with people overstaying or making themselves too comfortable. My younger brother, Ethan, 26M, has been dating a girl named Jenna, 25F, for about 6 months. Before meeting Jenna, Ethan stayed at our place maybe once or twice a year, and he's generally very polite and low maintenance. When he told me about Jenna, I met her once at a family dinner and thought she was fine, nothing particularly remarkable, but she seemed nice enough. Things were normal. The problem started 2 weeks ago. Ethan called me out of the blue, sounding really stressed. He said Jenna's apartment lease was ending unexpectedly because her landlord was selling the building and she had nowhere to go for the next few days. Ethan asked if she could stay with us for just a couple of nights until she figured something out. I immediately felt uneasy because, even though it sounded short-term, I knew that could easily stretch into a week or more, and I hate having guests disrupt our routines. I politely told Ethan I needed to check with Mark first, but I already had a bad feeling about it. When I brought it up with Mark, he was firm. He said that he was not comfortable having someone stay with us, especially someone we barely knew, and especially not someone who might bring extra stress into our already hectic work lives. We have demanding jobs, and our home is our sanctuary. I agreed with him. I called Ethan back and told him that, unfortunately, we couldn't host Jenna. I tried to explain gently that we weren't rejecting him, but that our home was not a good place for guests right now. He seemed disappointed, but didn't argue too much over the phone. The issue escalated the next day. Ethan decided to come over anyway, with Jenna in tow. He showed up at our door, saying that he really needed our help, and that Jenna had nowhere else to go. I was blindsided and frustrated because he completely ignored my boundaries. Mark and I were already home, and I honestly froze for a moment because I didn't know how to react. I told Ethan firmly that she could not stay, that we had discussed this, and that he needed to find another solution. Ethan got defensive and said we were being heartless, and that family is supposed to help each other. Jenna looked awkward and a little embarrassed, but didn't say much. Things got tense fast. Ethan tried to argue, saying she could stay just for one night and that it wouldn't be a big deal. I explained that one night could easily become several, that we had responsibilities, and that we valued our privacy. I also mentioned that we didn't even know her that well, and it felt unfair to impose on us. He started raising his voice, saying I was selfish and that Mark was overreacting. I stayed calm but firm, and Mark backed me up completely. Eventually, Ethan stormed out, leaving Jenna at the door. She said she'd figure something out and left too, but I could tell she was upset and probably blamed me for it. The next day, our parents called. Apparently, Ethan had gone to them and told them we refused to help Jenna, and they were angry at us. My mom said we were being cruel and turning our backs on family in need. I tried explaining our perspective, but they wouldn't listen. My dad said we should learn to compromise and that sometimes family comes first. I argued that we had boundaries and responsibilities and that helping someone temporarily didn't justify violating our home rules, but it didn't make a difference. Now both my parents and Ethan are upset with me, and I've barely spoken to Ethan since. Here's the kicker. A friend of mine who heard the story said I might be overreacting and should have at least let Jenna crash on our couch for one night. I feel torn because I don't like conflict and hate upsetting family, but at the same time, I don't feel like I owe anyone indefinite access to our home. We've had past experiences where just one night guest ended up staying for a week, and it completely disrupted our lives. I also worry that if we had let her stay, it would have set a precedent that our home is available for every last-minute problem. I've been trying to stick to my boundaries and explain calmly why we couldn't host her, but the family pressure is intense. Ethan hasn't talked to me directly since the incident, and my parents keep dropping hints that I should apologize. Mark is supportive and says I did nothing wrong, but he also hates the tension and wishes we could just smooth things over. Meanwhile, Jenna's situation seems to have worked out. She found a temporary place with a friend, but the family drama lingers. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's girlfriend stay at our place. Even though it caused a huge fight, I feel like we were justified, but my family thinks otherwise. I don't want to damage my relationship with my brother, but I also don't want to compromise our boundaries or let someone disrupt our home. Where do I draw the line between being a good sister and protecting my household? Character count, 6,524 if you want. I can also craft a follow-up story where the conflict escalates and gets even more dramatic, which tends to make posts go viral on Reddit. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to help my sister financially after she made some questionable life choices? I, 32F, have always been the responsible one in my family. I've been working a steady job for about a decade, saving consistently, and recently bought my first home. My sister, Lena, 29F, has always had a more carefree approach to life, which has caused tension between us over the years, but we've generally maintained a cordial relationship. Lena has struggled financially for most of her adult life. She's had several jobs, mostly part-time, and has bounced between living with friends and renting on her own. She's made some questionable financial choices, like taking out loans she couldn't pay back and racking up credit card debt, and my parents have bailed her out multiple times. I've tried to help her in small ways, like giving her advice on budgeting or helping her update her resume, but I've avoided giving her money directly because it never seems to solve the underlying problem. A few months ago, Lena called me out of the blue. She said she needed $5,000 to cover rent and utilities for the next 3 months. She explained that she had recently gotten a new job, but it wouldn't start for another month, and in the meantime, she had no savings to fall back on. I was surprised by the amount, and I immediately felt uneasy because in the past she has asked for money and hasn't always been reliable about repaying it. I asked her some questions about her budget and what she had done to try to cover these expenses herself. She told me she had cut back on some things like eating out and subscriptions, but insisted it still wasn't enough. She also mentioned that she had taken a small personal loan from a friend, but that wasn't enough either. I felt like she hadn't fully exhausted all options, like negotiating a payment plan with her landlord or applying for emergency assistance programs, but she insisted that borrowing from me was her only choice. After thinking it over for a couple of days, I told her I couldn't lend her the money. I explained that I had my own financial commitments, including my mortgage, retirement savings, and other bills, and that giving her such a large sum would put me in a difficult position. I also told her that I was concerned about the pattern of asking for money without addressing the underlying financial issues. She got extremely upset, accused me of being selfish, and said that I didn't care about her or my family. Things got worse over the next few weeks. Lena stopped responding to my calls and texts, and our parents started pressuring me to help her. They argued that families should support each other in times of need, and that I was being heartless by refusing. I tried to explain my side calmly, but they said that my refusal would damage our relationship forever, and that I was prioritizing my possessions over people. I also received messages from some of my extended family members expressing disappointment. I felt trapped because I knew that giving her the money might temporarily relieve the problem, but it wouldn't teach her anything about managing her finances. It might even reinforce a pattern of relying on others whenever things got tough. At the same time, I felt guilty for refusing. I've never had to make such a choice with my sister before, and seeing her struggle is genuinely upsetting. Things came to a head at a family gathering. Lena was visibly angry and passive-aggressively brought up her financial struggles in front of everyone. She implied that I didn't care about her well-being and that I was putting material things above our relationship. I tried to stay calm and said that I cared about her, but that helping her in this way wasn't going to be beneficial in the long term. The conversation escalated, and we ended up arguing in front of everyone. My parents were clearly frustrated, my extended family seemed divided, and Lena stormed out. Since then, our relationship has been very strained. She hasn't spoken to me, and I feel anxious whenever I get calls or texts from family members. Some of my friends think I did the right thing because it sets a boundary, while others say I should have helped because family comes first. I've been second-guessing myself constantly, wondering if I could have done something differently, like giving her a smaller amount or helping her find alternative resources. I also feel conflicted because my refusal has highlighted deeper issues in our family dynamic. My sister has always relied on others, my parents enable her in some ways, and I've tried to maintain boundaries, but it feels like I'm now being judged for not participating in the cycle. At the same time, I have worked hard to be financially responsible and secure, and I feel like I shouldn't have to sacrifice that security just because someone else made different choices. I don't want our relationship to be permanently damaged, but I also don't want to reinforce a pattern of financial irresponsibility. I've considered offering support in other ways, like helping her find a financial advisor, creating a strict repayment plan, or assisting her with budgeting, but I'm not sure if that will be enough to mend things. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to lend my sister $5,000 after she made poor financial decisions, even though my parents and extended family are pressuring me to help. Character count, 6617. Hey friends, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely want to know what you enjoy and what we can improve. What did you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future uploads? Your feedback helps us get better every day. Thanks for sticking with us. AITA for refusing to give my sister a large sum of money for her business venture after she lied about her financial situation. I, 34F, have always been close to my younger sister, Rachel, 30F. We grew up very close and have shared most of our milestones together. Over the years, I've helped her out financially in small ways when she was in tough spots, covering rent once, helping with car repairs, that sort of thing. I'm financially stable, but not rich. I live comfortably and save diligently for my future, but I can't just give away large sums without thinking it through. About 2 months ago, Rachel approached me with a proposal. She claimed she had an amazing opportunity to start a boutique cafe, and she needed an initial investment of $15,000. She told me it was a limited-time opportunity and that it would yield good profits within a year. She had already apparently secured a location, and she needed funds to secure permits, buy equipment, and do renovations. She insisted that this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance and said that she couldn't get a bank loan because the bank wanted collateral she didn't have. Initially, I was skeptical but wanted to support her. She sent me a business plan that looked convincing at first glance. She emphasized how successful similar cafes in the area were and how she had experience in management. She also assured me that she would pay me back within a year. I agreed to help her with a smaller amount, $3,000, to cover some initial expenses while she sorted out additional funding. Over the next couple of weeks, I noticed inconsistencies. She said she was making progress with permits, but I later found out she hadn't even submitted the applications. She claimed to have paid deposits for equipment, but when I called the supplier, she left me off the invoice. They had never heard of her. I started asking more questions, and she got defensive, saying I didn't trust her and that I was overcomplicating things. A week ago, I discovered that she had spent the $3,000 I gave her on personal expenses, clothes, a vacation, and gift for friends, not the cafe. I confronted her, and she admitted it, but said she deserved a break because starting a business is stressful. I was furious. I told her I couldn't give her the remaining $12,000, and I wanted her to pay back the $3,000 she had already taken. She said that wasn't fair, that I was trying to ruin her dream, and that she didn't ask for a handout. She asked for support. She then started sending me long messages saying that I was being controlling and that if I really loved her, I would trust her to handle her life. She even told our parents that I was unsupportive and selfish, which caused tension at family gatherings. Some of our extended family has asked me if I plan to give her the money, and some have implied that I am being heartless. I have offered to help her in non-financial ways, advising on her business plan, helping her find legal funding, and guiding her to look for investors. But she insists that only I can provide the funds. I've also tried to explain that the business isn't ready yet and that investing more money now is risky. She sees this as me not believing in her. My parents are upset and think I should give her the money to support family, but I feel like I'm being reasonable. I gave her a chance and even invested some money, which she misused. I am worried that giving her the rest would be throwing good money after bad, and that it would set a precedent for her to continue expecting me to bail her out financially. I also feel hurt because she is twisting the situation to make it seem like I don't care about her dreams or well-being. The relationship I valued so much now feels strained because she refuses to acknowledge her own mistakes. I want to help her, but not at the expense of my financial security or to enable irresponsible behavior. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to give my sister the rest of the $15,000 she asked for after she lied about how she spent the first $3,000 and insisted that I give her more. Character count, 6,328 if you want. I can craft a more dramatic, extended version with family fallout, social media involvement, and escalating arguments that make it feel like a top viral Reddit story. AITA for refusing to let my father move in with me after he retired, even though he says he has nowhere else to go. I, 36F, have been living in the city for about 10 years. I work as a project manager for a tech company, and I live in a 2-bedroom apartment that I rent on my own. It's modest but comfortable, and I made it my sanctuary after years of living with roommates and moving around for work. I enjoy my independence and quiet space, and I value having routines that work for me. My father, Mark, 62M, recently retired after a long career. He lives alone in a small town about 3 hours away. A few weeks ago, he called me in a panic and said he couldn't manage on his own anymore. His house requires maintenance he can't physically handle. He struggles with cooking and cleaning, and he says he has no friends nearby to help. He asked if he could move in with me temporarily until he figured something else out. I was immediately hesitant. My apartment is small, and I work long hours. I also have a cat that is skittish around strangers, and I value my privacy deeply. I explained to my father that I couldn't host him indefinitely, but I offered to help him look into local retirement communities, hire a cleaning service, and even help with meal prep or errands a few times a week. He said that wouldn't be enough, that he needed to live with me full-time. When I said no, he got upset. He accused me of being selfish and uncaring, saying that family should support each other. He reminded me that I grew up in his house and that he raised me, implying that I owed him this. I tried to explain that helping someone doesn't have to mean giving up your entire life and personal space, but he didn't see it that way. The conversation became tense when my stepmother, who lives in another state, got involved. She suggested that I should make room for him and that I could find ways to accommodate him, like sleeping in the living room temporarily. I told her that a small apartment with one spare bedroom isn't enough for 2 adults to live comfortably, and that I wasn't willing to give up my space and privacy for an indefinite period. She responded by saying I was being cold and ungrateful to my own father. My father then started bringing up friends and neighbors who have been generous to their elderly parents, saying I should follow their example. He also mentioned that other siblings, I have 2, are married and can't help him in the same way I can. He frames it as if I am the only person capable of doing this. I've considered short-term alternatives, like helping him find a senior living arrangement or a roommate situation for older adults, but he refuses to live anywhere that isn't my apartment. He says he feels abandoned and unsupported and threatens that if I don't let him move in, our relationship will suffer. I feel torn because I love my father and I want him to be safe and cared for, but I also know that having him move in would completely disrupt my life. I work long hours, have a cat, and enjoy my routines. I would also have to deal with conflicts over space, meals, and schedules constantly. I've tried to compromise, offering frequent visits, assistance with hiring help, and even paying for part of a local facility for him, but he refuses all of it. The tension has extended to family gatherings. My father and stepmother have both made comments about my lack of compassion in front of other relatives, suggesting I'm prioritizing my comfort over family obligations. Some friends say I'm right to set boundaries, and that my father cannot expect me to sacrifice my entire life for him. Others argue that family should help each other and I should do the right thing. I've tried to balance compassion with practical boundaries, but it's clear that my father interprets my refusal as personal rejection. I feel stressed, guilty, and unsure how to navigate this without causing a permanent rift in our relationship. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my father move in with me after he retired, even though he claims he has nowhere else to go, and my family says I should help him because he raised me. Character count, 6,677. I can also create another story with even more intense family conflict and moral ambiguity, where boundaries clash with perceived obligations, which is exactly the type of story that tends to go viral on Reddit. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her choice of bridesmaids? This is going to be long, so I'll start from the beginning. My 28F sister Lila, 31F, is getting married in a few months. She's always been a little controlling, let's say. Growing up, she was the golden child, and I often felt overlooked, but I tried to let that go as adults. Our parents are divorced, and she has a much closer relationship with my dad than I do, though he's always treated me fairly. Anyway, the wedding. A couple of months ago, Lila sent me a group text with the names of her bridesmaids. She has 6, 4 of her childhood friends, my cousin who is about 15 years older than me, and me. At first, I was happy to be included, but then I read the message fully. She had made a rule. Each bridesmaid had to contribute financially to a group fund for dress, accessories, hair, makeup, bachelorette party, and travel costs. The amount per person was around $1,500, which, while not insane, is still a lot when you add in travel and time off work. I've been living paycheck to paycheck lately, so I was worried, but I tried to be diplomatic and suggested we could try to minimize costs where possible. She brushed it off, saying that if I couldn't afford it, maybe I shouldn't be a bridesmaid. At this point, I started feeling uneasy. I didn't want to be made to feel guilty for financial reasons, so I asked her privately if it was possible to attend as a regular guest. That's when things started getting weird. She told me, and I quote, "If you're not a bridesmaid, you're basically not part of my wedding. Everyone will notice you sitting there alone. You don't want to be the awkward sister, do you?" I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to be awkward, just financially responsible. She didn't budge. Things got worse when she finalized her bridesmaid lineup. One of the childhood friends had been asking me about wedding planning, and I jokingly mentioned that I might skip the bridesmaid role due to costs. Lila found out and flipped. She sent me a long, angry text accusing me of trying to ruin her special day, being selfish, and choosing money over family. My parents, who know our history, tried to mediate, but she accused them of taking sides. Around this time, I discovered something that made me even more uncomfortable. Lila had decided that each bridesmaid needed to wear a dress she picked, $4.50 each, and she had chosen matching tattoos for all of us to get together. I don't have tattoos, never have, and am not willing to get one at 30 because my body doesn't react well to tattoos. When I told her, she said, "Well, then you're out. A bridesmaid without a tattoo isn't a real bridesmaid." This felt like a hard line. I explained that I would love to attend as a guest, dress nicely, and celebrate with her, but she kept insisting that my refusal made me heartless and that our parents would disown me if I didn't participate. After a week of back-and-forth texts, I decided to step back. I explained that I would be attending the wedding as a guest, and that I could help in non-financial ways like offering to help set up decorations or help with logistics on the day. I thought this was fair, but Lila accused me of trying to control the wedding by refusing her rules. I tried reasoning again, emphasizing that $1,500 plus travel and getting a tattoo and matching accessories was just not something I could do right now, and that I still loved her and wanted to celebrate. Fast forward to now. I have bought a gift, booked a hotel room near the venue, and am planning to attend the wedding. My parents have warned me that it will be tense. I've already received passive-aggressive texts from Lila asking why I don't have the right hairstyle lined up when she knows I'm not a bridesmaid, and she started subtweeting about sisters who can't support their siblings. I know this because she's very public about her social media. Her fiancé is apparently okay with me attending, but he's caught in the middle and says he doesn't want drama on the wedding day. I feel frustrated because I've been trying to compromise, participate in ways I can, be supportive, and still respect my financial and personal boundaries. My parents say I'm right to hold my ground, but my extended family is divided. Some think I'm being petty and should just get the dress, tattoo, and pay for everything to avoid drama. Others say Lila's demands are absurd. I'm starting to feel like even attending as a guest will cause her to act cold or make passive-aggressive comments. I've considered not going at all, but then I would feel like I'm letting my parents and some family members down, and I really don't want to hurt anyone else. I also don't want to be guilted into spending money I don't have or altering my body permanently to satisfy her. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to follow all of my sister's bridal rules and planning to attend as a guest instead of a bridesmaid. AITA for refusing to pay for my brother's wedding after he insulted my partner. So this is going to be a long one because there's a lot of context, so bear with me. I, 32M, have a younger brother, David, 28M, who has always had a bit of a flair for the dramatic. Growing up, our family has always been close, but also prone to over-the-top competitiveness, especially between me and him. I've been married to my partner, Jessica, 31F, for 6 years, and for the most part, things have been great, although David has always had a subtle way of making comments that irritate me. Nothing huge, mostly little digs or jokes, but they've been consistent over time. David got engaged about a year ago, and from the beginning, he was extremely clear about wanting a big wedding and that our parents and I would be contributing financially. I was okay with this at first because I figured it would be similar to how my parents helped me with my wedding, and I do love my brother, so helping him celebrate a major life event didn't seem unreasonable. Fast forward to a few months ago. Jessica and I were visiting David and his fiancée, Claire, to discuss some of the wedding logistics. They were showing us potential venues, catering options, etc. During the conversation, David started making comments about the guest list. He said, "Well, we don't want to have too many people your age because they're all just going to drink too much and ruin the vibe. Plus, your wife isn't really glamorous enough for this kind of setting, so maybe she should tone it down a bit." I froze. I couldn't believe he just said that. Jessica looked shocked and hurt, and honestly, I was angry. I've never considered Jessica to be anything less than smart, attractive, and kind, and to have my brother openly criticize her in that way felt like a slap in the face. I tried to laugh it off and change the subject, but he kept making little remarks over the next hour, which culminated in him saying, "I guess if you want to help pay for this wedding, you can, but try not to bring your boring little life with you. Claire and I are trying to have something classy, not a family reunion." At that point, I stood up and left. I told him I needed to talk to Jessica privately, and when we stepped outside, I told her how angry and humiliated I felt. She was upset, but she told me she didn't want me to ruin my relationship with my brother over this. I agreed at first, try to calm down, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. The more I thought, the more I realized that I could not, in good conscience, give David and Claire money for a wedding when they clearly didn't respect me or my partner. I called my parents and explained the situation. They were surprised, but mostly supportive. They told me that I was under no obligation to contribute and that David's comments were unacceptable. My parents said they might still contribute, but they wouldn't force me to. A few days later, David called me to discuss my contribution. I told him directly that after the way he spoke to Jessica and me, I was no longer comfortable giving any money toward his wedding. I told him I would still attend, and I hoped he would reconsider his words, but I was done being treated this way. David absolutely lost it. He said I was being petty, that I was holding a grudge over a few jokes, and that it was family loyalty 101 to support each other. He even said that my refusal to pay was going to make Claire hate me and ruin the wedding. My parents have tried to mediate, saying we should all just let it go and that contributing money doesn't mean condoning his behavior. But I can't get past how disrespectful he was. Now, some of our mutual friends have weighed in, and I'm getting mixed opinions. A few people think I overreacted, that weddings are stressful, and I shouldn't take everything so personally. Others are saying that my brother's comments were wildly inappropriate, and that it's completely reasonable for me to refuse financial support under these circumstances. Jessica has been incredibly supportive throughout, saying that my boundaries are valid and that no one should treat her that way, especially family. However, I still feel some guilt, like maybe I'm making things worse or being dramatic. I genuinely love my brother, but I also feel like he has shown a side of himself that I can't ignore. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay for my brother's wedding after the way he treated my partner and me. AITA for refusing to let my husband's cousin stay in our house for months, even though she says she has nowhere else to go. I, 30F, have been married to my husband, Jason, 32M, for 5 years. We live in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in the city. It's our home, and we've worked hard to make it comfortable and personal. Jason comes from a large extended family, many of whom are very close, but I've noticed over the years that they can sometimes be entitled or expect favors without considering boundaries. Recently, Jason's cousin, Elena, 27F, reached out to him saying that she had lost her apartment due to eviction and that she had no one else to turn to. She asked if she could stay with us temporarily while she figured things out. At first, I thought a week or 2 might be manageable, so I said we could discuss it. I asked Jason to clarify exactly what she expected in terms of time and logistics. That's when the problem started. Elena told Jason that she would need to stay for as long as it takes to find a new apartment, which could be months. She also said that she expected to have a room of her own and wanted full access to our kitchen, living room, and other spaces. I was immediately uncomfortable. Our apartment is small, and I value my privacy and routines. Having a guest for even a few weeks is one thing, but months would completely disrupt our life. I told Jason that I was not comfortable with Elena staying for an indefinite period. I suggested helping her find a short-term rental, offering to contribute to her moving expenses, or helping her get set up with a local friend or family member. Jason said that he wanted to help her and that families should take care of each other. I explained that helping doesn't have to mean giving up our entire home for months. Elena quickly became insistent. She started sending Jason messages daily, explaining how difficult it was to find affordable housing and implying that he was being cold for not convincing me to let her stay. She even hinted that if we didn't let her move in, she might have to live on the street temporarily. Jason tried to mediate and suggested a compromise. She could stay for a few weeks. I countered that even a few weeks would be stressful because of our work schedules, my need for quiet, and our small space. I told him that while I sympathize with her situation, we can help in other ways without letting her move in indefinitely. The conflict escalated when Elena mentioned she would have friends over occasionally to help her pack and feel supported. I explained that we cannot host her friends or allow unsupervised guests in our apartment, and she accused me of being unkind and inflexible. Jason said that he wanted to avoid a family conflict, but he also admitted that I was right about our apartment not being suitable for long-term guests. After this, Elena started messaging my parents and Jason's parents, trying to rally support. She framed it as me refusing to help family and being selfish. My parents said that while they understand my position, it's hard not to feel guilty. Jason's parents said they wished I would just let her stay for a little while because she has nowhere else to go. I've tried to remain polite and supportive. I've offered financial help for a short-term rental, helped her look at apartments, and even offered to let her stay for a single night if she was in a desperate situation. She rejected everything that didn't involve moving in for months. Jason and I have argued several times because he feels torn between me and Elena. I feel guilty because she is genuinely in a tough spot, but I also feel that letting her move in for months would cause ongoing stress, invade our privacy, and disrupt our life. I've tried to be reasonable and provide alternatives, but she refuses anything that doesn't involve living with us. Some friends say I'm completely justified in protecting my home and boundaries, while others say I should make a temporary sacrifice for family. I'm torn because I want to help without compromising my well-being and the stability of our household. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my husband's cousin stay in our house for months, even though she says she has nowhere else to go. Character count, 6,646. I can also create a story with even higher stakes, involving multiple family members, escalating conflicts, and moral ambiguity, which is exactly the kind of story that often goes viral on Reddit. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for refusing to let my husband cut his mother out of our lives, even though she constantly insults me. I, 32F, have been married to my husband, Mark, 35M, for 6 years. Overall, we have a strong marriage, but one ongoing issue has been his mother, Karen, 60F. She has always been critical of me, often making passive-aggressive comments about the way I dress, cook, or decorate our home. At first, I tried to ignore it, thinking she was just old-fashioned, but over the years, the comments have become increasingly personal and hurtful. For example, when I hosted family dinners, she would make remarks like, "Oh, you really think this looks good?" Or, "Are you sure this recipe is appropriate for grown adults?" She also frequently criticized my appearance in front of Mark, saying things like, "I don't know why you let her wear that. It's not flattering." I have confronted her politely several times, asking her to stop, but she always dismisses my concerns, saying I'm too sensitive or reading too much into it. Mark has been aware of this behavior for years. He acknowledges that his mother can be difficult, but often minimizes it, saying she's just being herself and that I need to develop thicker skin. I've tried to communicate calmly and reasonably about how her comments affect me, but Mark usually changes the subject or tells me to let it go. Things escalated recently. Karen came to visit us for a long weekend. From the moment she arrived, she criticized my cooking, the state of our living room, and even the way I organize my closet. Mark tried to mediate at first, but eventually he stopped intervening. On the last night, she told me directly, "I don't think you're good enough for Mark. He deserves someone better." I was stunned and left the room crying. After she left, I told Mark that I could no longer tolerate this behavior. I asked him to choose between continuing to allow his mother to speak to me this way or maintaining a relationship with her. I told him that if he wanted a healthy marriage, I couldn't stay silent while she insulted me. Mark became defensive and said that I was overreacting and turning this into a personal attack. He also accused me of trying to control him and his relationship with his mother. I suggested counseling to help us navigate this, but Mark refused. He told me that cutting off his mother was not an option and that he would not consider it. I reminded him that I've been patient for years, endured countless insults, and tried to make peace, but this pattern is toxic. He said I'm making him choose, and he doesn't want to do that. I've started distancing myself from his mother whenever she visits, but Mark complains that I'm being dramatic and divisive. He's also begun to resent me for bringing up past incidents of her mistreatment. I feel like my boundaries are being completely disregarded, and I'm worried that this will continue to harm our marriage if nothing changes. My friends have told me I'm right to set boundaries, and that Mark is being unreasonable by refusing to protect me. My parents also support me, saying that while it's unfortunate to distance from family, my well-being comes first. On the other hand, Mark's siblings and some extended family members have said I'm being too sensitive and trying to manipulate Mark. I am torn because I love Mark and want our marriage to succeed, but I also feel that I deserve respect from the people in our lives. I don't want to alienate his mother completely if there's a way to have a civil relationship, but I also cannot allow her to continue insulting me without consequences. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my husband continue to maintain a normal relationship with his mother while she constantly insults me and disregards my boundaries. Character count, 6,187 if you want. I can create an even longer, more dramatic version where Mark's family takes sides, tension escalates at family events, and social media involvement adds to the conflict. This type of story often becomes a highly popular Reddit post. AITA for refusing to let my cousin bring her dog to my wedding after she threatened not to come. I, 28F, have been planning my wedding with my fiancé, Daniel, 30M, for over a year. We've been very intentional about every detail, including the guest list, venue, and overall vibe. About 6 months ago, my cousin, Laura, 27F, who I've always been close to, asked if she could bring her dog to the wedding. Initially, I said no. Our venue is a historic garden that does not allow pets except for service animals, and I also worried about allergies among our guests and the general chaos a dog might cause. Laura was visibly upset, but said she understood, so I assumed the issue was settled. A few weeks later, she emailed me again, stating that her dog, Max, is part of the family and that she couldn't attend without him. She even mentioned that she might decline the invitation if I didn't make an exception. I reminded her politely of the venue's rules and explained that I could not break the rules just for her dog, citing concerns about guests with allergies, children, and safety. I also offered to take pictures of her and Max in the garden before or after the wedding as a compromise. Laura didn't take it well. She started sending messages saying I was selfish and prioritizing stuff over family, and that I didn't understand how much Max meant to her. She then began pressuring me on social media, tagging me in posts about pets at weddings and commenting on my wedding planning photos with things like, "I guess some people care more about rules than loved ones." I ignored the posts, thinking she would calm down, but it escalated. About a month ago, she called my parents to complain. My mom tried to mediate, explaining the rules and suggesting compromises, but Laura insisted that I was choosing my wedding over family and refused to acknowledge that the venue has strict pet policies. My dad eventually told her he thought I was right, but Laura kept insisting that I was being unreasonable. She then threatened directly that she would not come to the wedding if Max wasn't allowed, claiming it would break her heart and that she would feel completely left out. I felt trapped. On one hand, I want my cousin there. She is important to me, and I want to celebrate with family. On the other hand, the venue rules are clear, and I also cannot risk upsetting guests who might have allergies, fear of dogs, or small children who could be knocked over. I tried reasoning with her, offering alternative ways to include Max, such as professional photos, a cameo in the ceremony videos, or even having a small celebration for her and Max before the wedding. She refused everything, saying it wasn't the same and that I was excluding her family. The situation got worse when some mutual friends started messaging me, saying Laura was posting online about how I was mean and controlling. They also said she was saying that I didn't value family, which is upsetting because I've spent months thinking about how to make everyone feel included. I feel like I've tried to compromise, but nothing I suggest is good enough. 2 weeks ago, I sent Laura a firm message stating that Max could not attend the wedding under any circumstances due to the venue rules and safety concerns. I also explained that I still want her there and that I've planned other ways for her and Max to be part of the celebration, but the dog cannot be inside the venue. Laura replied by saying she would consider not coming and that I was choosing rules over love and making her feel unwelcome. I am now stuck feeling guilty. I've tried to include her and Max in other ways, but she refuses to accept anything short of having the dog at the venue. I also feel frustrated because she is making an ultimatum, putting me in a position where if I stand my ground, I risk her absence, but if I give in, I could get in trouble with the venue and upset other guests. I've discussed it with Daniel, and he supports my decision, but he also worries that this will create tension with extended family. Some family members have told me I should just let it slide for the sake of family harmony, while others agree that I am being reasonable and that the venue rules and safety concerns outweigh one person's pet. I want to celebrate my wedding without conflict and ensure it's safe and comfortable for all guests, but I also don't want to hurt my cousin's feelings. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my cousin bring her dog to my wedding, even though she says she won't come if I don't. Character count, 6,217. I can also write an even longer, more dramatic version where Laura escalates with social media campaigns, family divides, and last-minute wedding threats, making it feel like a top viral Reddit story. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé. I, 29F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Clara, 32F. Growing up, we were close, but as we got older, we developed very different lifestyles and values. Clara has always been the perfect child in our parents' eyes. She got straight A's, went to an Ivy League school, and landed a high-profile career. I, on the other hand, have taken a more unconventional path, living abroad, changing careers several times, and pursuing hobbies that are considered less productive by our family standards. Despite this, I thought we were still supportive of each other. The problem began a few months ago when Clara got engaged to a man named Derek, 35M. At first, I tried to be supportive, but almost immediately, I noticed red flags. Derek is charming, smart, and successful on paper. In practice, he is manipulative, controlling, and condescending, particularly towards anyone he considers beneath him. My first real experience with him was at a family dinner after the engagement announcement. He spent the entire evening subtly mocking my career choices, making comments like, "It's cute that you try so many things," or "Maybe someday you'll figure out a real career." I brushed it off at the time, thinking maybe he was nervous, but it got worse. Over the next few months, I noticed more things. He constantly talks over Clara in conversations, undermines her opinions, and insists on controlling every aspect of her life, down to her wardrobe, her diet, and her social interactions. When I brought up minor concerns to Clara, she would brush them off, saying things like, "He's just teasing," or "You don't understand our dynamic." I tried to respect her perspective, but the more I saw, the more uncomfortable I became. Then came the invitations to the wedding. Derek and Clara decided to have a relatively small, formal wedding in a luxurious venue, which was fine, except that Derek made very specific rules about who could attend. He wanted only people who he personally approved of, and he vetoed several of Clara's friends and family members without any discussion. This included one of my close friends, whom he called too loud and undisciplined. I was taken aback by this, but again, Clara assured me it was no big deal. Things escalated when the rehearsal dinner invitations came with a note from Derek outlining a strict dress code and behavior expectations. The note included statements like no controversial conversations and be mindful of appearances at all times. To me, this read as controlling and toxic. I confronted Clara about it, and she responded defensively, saying that Derek is just very particular and that I was overreacting. A few weeks ago, I had a more serious incident with Derek at a family brunch. He openly criticized my lifestyle choices in front of our parents and extended family, saying I was irresponsible and immature, even though I have a stable career, home, and savings. When I tried to defend myself, he interrupted me, laughed, and told me to relax. He's just giving advice. Clara didn't step in at all. At this point, I realized that attending the wedding would mean being in an environment where I was likely to be humiliated in front of people I care about, with no support from my sister. I told Clara that I wouldn't be attending the wedding. My reasoning was that I couldn't celebrate a union with someone who openly disrespects me and controls my sister to the point of isolating her. I also didn't want to send a message that his behavior is acceptable or that I condone it by showing up. Clara reacted extremely negatively. She accused me of being selfish, immature, and jealous. She said that Derek is a great man and that I am projecting issues onto him. Our parents sided with her, saying I was overreacting and that family should support the bride no matter what. I tried explaining that my decision wasn't about jealousy or trying to ruin the wedding, but about self-respect and refusing to enable toxic behavior. I even offered to meet with Derek one-on-one to try to resolve our differences, but he declined. Clara took this as an insult and has barely spoken to me since. Several family members have reached out, saying I should get over it and attend the wedding to keep the peace. My best friend said that they think I am justified and that Derek's behavior is problematic, but I feel guilty for potentially causing a rift in my family. I've received mixed messages from people outside the family. Some say I am overreacting and should just suck it up for one day, while others say that standing up for myself and refusing to be treated poorly is the right thing to do. I still want a relationship with my sister, but I also don't want to compromise my boundaries or validate Derek's toxic behavior. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss new uploads. And feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean the world to me. See you in the next video.